If you want to play experimental, you can play f5. If you want to play safe, you can play g3. If uncertain, once again, you can click on the show ideas button. And as you can see, f5, g3 are one of the suggestions. Hello everybody, my name is Emil Stefanov, International Master, and in this video, I will be your guide for weekly scenario number 22 in Noctie. Let's get started. As mentioned in the previous weekly scenario, we are continuing our topic on playing out positions from the most recent Candidates Tournament. This position happened in round 8 between Muzychuk and Divya Deshmukh. As you can see, White has a Maróczy Bind structure. Most of the minor pieces have been traded. Only Knight versus Bishop are left alongside the heavy pieces, the Queens and the Rooks. And in specific, it is the light square Bishop, not the dark square Bishop. That would have been a completely different position to evaluate then. But with the light square Bishop, because our pawns are placed on light squares, they're in fact restricting the Bishop as much as possible. So if the Bishop could miraculously come from behind and attack the pawns, that's going to be a different story. But for the time being, the Bishop is actually very locked in. Our Knight has some potential, ideally the d5 square, in which case a trade might happen. Alternatively, we could also try to reroute the Knight somewhere else. But for the time being on c3 it stands really good. So here our plan should be to really utilize the fact that there is no dark square Bishop and try to create a kingside expansion against this king on g8. So we could potentially try to play f4, f5. That's one option. Now, obviously tuck the king away, f4, f5, try to break through on that side of the board. Alternatively, we could try to just push the h-pawn, the good old hairy the h-pawn. However, we do have to be a little bit careful. So what we need to be careful about is this idea for black, a6, b5, striking on the queen side. The good news is we have our knight and pawn and queen all covering that square. And in fact, I'm going to start by playing pawn to a4. Reinforce that one more time. And as you can see, Noctie plays a6. Now, this is a good moment to think about, do I want to play a5 or do I want to keep the pawn there? Obviously, if I play a5, b6 will happen. We'll probably trade those pawns, in which case my b3 pawn is going to be very weak because it is a backwards pawn. At some moment, I'm anticipating Noctie to play queen b4. So really, we would have to kind of protect this pawn for the time being. If that's going to be the case, then I'm not going to be playing a5, and I'm going to leave the structure as is. And I am very interested in this f4, f5 plan. So I'm going to start with h3. As you can see, a great move by Noctie. So king h2 and king h1, that's an obvious idea. And rook a b8 is played. So b5 is on the horizon, but after ab, there is knight takes b5. So in fact, that would not work unless Noctie plays bishop to d7. So in that case, Noctie will try to brute force b5 if bishop d7 is played. This is where we need to ask ourselves, are we going to be in time with any of our kingside expansion? It doesn't seem likely. If we play king h1 or king h2 for that matter, bishop d7, f4, then after b5, it is all chaos on the board. So not quite certain if we're ready for that. But we do have knight d5, which does attack the e7 pawn, and it's a little bit awkward to protect it. Might have to play rook e8, and then a5, and now that's a little bit of a different story after that. So let me continue naturally with king h2. Just trying to position the king outside of this and try to go for f4. In this game, we're going to try for the f4, f5 plan. Maybe in another game, we'll try for the h4, h5 plan. We'll see if we have success with that one, as opposed to the f2, f4 plan. b6 played by Noctie. As we discussed, if a bishop to d7 was played, then I think after knight d5, we were threatening too many things. The pawn was hanging rook e8, a5. We were going to land this knight on b6, and the knight was going to be extremely powerful. So this is actually a really good move by Noctie, just making sure that we don't have a5. But that does give us some time to play f4. Unfortunately, after bishop d7, knight d5, obviously attacking the pawn, rook e8, potentially f5, it almost feels like we're very close to the attack succeeding. We're going to give it a go. We're going to play f4. That is our plan. So I'm going to continue pushing on this side of the board. And it's really all about timing. Was Noctie going to be faster or slower? Noctie decides bishop to f6, and bishop is probably going to go back through f7. Now, what I have realized is I've placed my king on h2. I wasn't quite certain if I wanted to place it on h1 or h2. In some future lines, this will actually be kind of an annoying check, to be honest. So that's unfortunate, but maybe we could start with some rook a1 that looks good. Maybe some knight d5. I know we talked about this trade being a real possibility, and b5 is going to happen, but then at least we get a5, and we can try to get some activity with that pass pawn. So all in all, because f6 has been played, that has weakened some of the squares. So I am now, in fact, okay to go knight d5. Maybe it is just kind of equal after the trades, but at least it feels like we should have some pressure along the e-file. Again, with the pawn on f7, it's a little bit of a different story. And Noctie continues with b5 as we predicted. But cb5, that's the way I'm going to take. I'm going to take away from the center. I know it looks weird, but after a5, we have this pass pawn that could be very dangerous. And at the same time, we have this queen e4, queen e6 ideas. The e7 pawn's weak. Our king is tucked away on h2, so we don't have to worry about that. And Noctie plays queen c2. So here's where Noctie is basically saying, okay, please trade with me. For if we trade, then we're going into a rook endgame that might be drawn due to the fact that rook endgames are just drawn. But again, due to the fact that f6 was played, I'm not even that certain if this is as equal as maybe Noctie is saying. We do have this powerful pass pawn. So the moves I'm thinking about are queen e3 or queen takes c2. And as always, if at any moment you're not certain of what to do exactly, you can click on the Show Ideas button. That's a really good feature in Noctie. And after you click on the move, you can see Noctie suggesting queen g3 or queen e3. So apparently queen takes c2 might not be quite as sufficient for winning. But queen e3, I really like this. We keep protecting this pawn. We attack the e7 pawn. We can play rook fe1. We can continue that. a6, a7. The queen is lovely position to support the pawn. So all in all, I think that's why I'm enjoying queen e3 so much. And naturally, we see Noctie play rook c7 to try and already be ready to block me on that side of the board. But with that being said, I do think that that is a mistake. So we could try to punish Noctie already. Yeah, I think it is a very basic move. If you want to, you can pause the video. But okay, you probably see me hovering over this way. I'm assuming rook ac1 is sufficient to win the game because there is no way to protect the rook on c7 and no way to counterattack us. So I think after rook c7, we clearly are able to win queen for a rook or just the rook. So let's see what Noctie is going to respond with. Queen takes c1, makes sense. Rook takes c1, and we can pre-move queen takes c1. And from here on, we just have an extra queen. And not only do we have an extra queen, but we have this passer pawn. So we can play queen c6, a6, a7, and just finish off the game. So alrighty, now that we checkmated Noctie after being up a full queen for a rook in a very easy position, let's go back to the starting position. We'll increase the difficulty and we'll try again. As mentioned before, we're going to start with a4. I think that's a great move. We're going to have to play this move anyways, so if we know we're going to have to play this move, might as well start with it because we want to limit this b5 potential. Now, as mentioned before, I was going with the h3, f4, f5 idea. That was really good. Maybe we could throw in h4 and figure out if that does give us something. As you can see, excellent move. Our idea is very simple. We just want to potentially be able to play h5. Not right off the bat, obviously, queen takes h5 is a thing. But maybe, as Noctie lines up with rook b8, similar to the first game, where at some moment we jump with the knight, we utilize a rook on the open file, on the semi-open file, that will happen. But Noctie plays h5, which does mean that the f4, f5 strike is even more powerful than before. The only drawback is we kind of weaken our king by leaving the pawn on h4 instead of on h3. A lot of the dark squares are weakened, but there doesn't seem to be an immediate way for us to utilize them. At the same time, I want to play rook fe1, but I don't want to. At the same time, I want to play rook e1, but I don't want to. It's very weird, but it's probably going to be best to be always able to block this, to be able to defend it. And, well, I guess we always have knight d5, but for the most part, I think playing king h1 now might be slightly better than king h2. It does feel slightly safer. Maybe at some moments there was a queen e5 check. So I think with us playing h4 and forcing Noctie to play h5, that's actually in our favor. And Noctie goes queen e5, but that is trying to play queen f6, I guess, to hit my pawn on h4. And there's maybe some b5 ideas. That's actually a really nice move, because if I play ab, well, I guess I have rook a8 and only then knight b5. But we'll start with f4 as before. We just want to kick this queen away. And it's actually coming with a tempo, which is great. And after queen f6, this is where we're going to think. Because, yes, there's one check, but alternatively, we have f5, and that looks really good. I mean, I know we're sacrificing a whole pawn for it. Queen h4 check will happen, king g1, bishop d7. But our attack seems to be happening really quickly. We have knight d5, threatening knight b6. I mean, there's some f6 moments. So if you want to play experimental, you can play f5. If you want to play safe, you can play g3. If uncertain, once again, you can click on the show ideas button. And as you can see, f5, g3 are one of the suggestions, and queen g3 being another one. But I really like f5. I really like this aggressive option. Just give up the pawn, but our king's going to go to g1. That's fine. And because h5 has been played, this pawn's a lot weaker than it usually would be. So in some lines, we also have some fg, and some e5 ideas potentially. But queen h4 check was played. King g1 will dodge the check. No other pieces are near our king to attack it. There's no dark square bishop to really put some pressure on us, obviously. So now this is what I was thinking about, and I feel like knight d5, knight b6 is a powerful threat. Knight d5 also introduces a secondary idea of rook f4, so it only makes sense. Once we give up this pawn, we need to play aggressively, we need to play actively, so this feels like we are doing that. Knight b6 being a huge threat right now, attacking a lot of things actually, not just the rooks, but the bishop as well. And I wouldn't be shocked if Noctie just plays bishop c6 and says, I need to sack a bishop, or sorry, excuse me, I need to sack an exchange to be able to continue playing this position. Queen g5 was chosen instead, which does allow knight b6. And I guess Noctie's idea is just bishop c6, sacrifice the exchange for the pawn, and hope for the best. Doesn't seem like the worst plan. We do have f6, by the way, I do want to mention that. This is probably my preference. This looks really, really nice because ef6, there's knight f6, check, and we pick up the bishop on d7. And then if e6, then we play knight e7 check. We pick up the rook on c8, and at some moments, this pawn on c5 is actually really... Oh, so sorry, pawn on d6 is really weak. So we will be able to pick it up. Yes, there's some queen c5 checks, but we'll come to figure out that later. So I'm going to play f6 and just really continue pushing forward. And as you can see, Noctie did not get any counterplay on the queen side. We locked that out with a4. And then we prioritized attacking on the king side. And this f4, f5 idea became even more powerful once we had forced h5, because the g6 pawn in many lines was actually way weaker. And e6 was played by Noctie, so we'll continue naturally with knight e7 check and hit the rook. I would like to take on d6 and take on c8, but I can't do both things at the same time, unfortunately. So we will probably have to settle for knight takes c8, and there is queen c5. So the only drawback of this variation is Noctie does not get checkmated. Ooh, but queen c5 check, I believe, was the necessary move there, because now we simply have queen takes d6, and as far as I can see, there is no perpetual check. Our king will just tuck in the corner on h2, and so now we're just up much more material than we would have. This pawn was actually pretty important for us to clear through, because now essentially what's happening is we're able to utilize the open file for our rooks. So we could start with queen e7, put some more pressure on the f7 pawn, but when you are up material, trading is never a bad idea. So we could just play queen f4, try to force this trade. Whatever you do not play e5. Please do not play e5. You will get checkmated. Queen f4 does seem like a logical move to me. But queen c5 is there. Not the biggest fan. I guess we do get one check, and then we're able to play rook d1. I kind of don't want to be allowing black to have control over the file. So in a way, I was thinking of rook fe1, but then that means we're giving up the f6 pawn. So it's kind of a drawback. We could play this, but then the rooks kind of look weird. Hence, I was thinking of queen f4 for the longest time, but yeah, it doesn't look the most optimistic, but it's probably the best move. Okay, maybe we had something better, maybe some queen e7, king g8, maybe something else there. Ooh, okay, I think it was queen e7 potentially, and rook fe1 there. Okay, we will survive. It's not like we will not survive. We will be okay. King h2, game goes on. We'll be able to play rook a d8, rook a d1, or rook fd1, and try to utilize the d file as much as we can. Nonetheless, it's actually really hard to break through in Noctie's position, and that move e5 is going to make it exceedingly harder and harder for us to do so. We could try to play queen f2 and just force the queen trade, because after bishop takes e4, we have rook e1 and rook e5. I actually quite like that. So let's go queen f2. Okay, it's a mistake apparently. I don't really understand why. Oh, maybe there's queen b4. Maybe that's the problem there. Yes. Okay. So I will have to protect both of these at the same time by playing queen e3. So yeah, basically I'm being very passive. Yeah, I was looking for the trade. Obviously Noctie's not going to want to trade being down material. So yeah, definitely shouldn't have been looking for the trade, but just playing natural moves. But it's okay. Maybe queen g5 was a better move there. Queen f8 though, I don't think going backwards is a good idea. So I'll just continue naturally with rook a d1. And eventually we should be able to utilize this file. Currently there's no entry squares, which is funny. But maybe when we double up, there might pop up some opportunities to play rook d6. Maybe even c5. That actually looks like a great move. Rook e6 is becoming a threat. And so I think that was going to be my idea to play rook c d6. But obviously rook e6 is going to be there. So, maybe we start with just rook d2. But rook e6, Noctie's going to put some pressure on this pawn. Not the easiest position to win, as always. But we'll start with c5. I like this move. We're just limiting the queen as well. And if rook e6, we'll think about it then. I'm sure we'll figure out something. I like this rook f2. It's just kind of a move that passes the turn. Nothing really happening right now. If queen h8, we have rook d6. I like that. If queen h6, this was exactly my plan. I could take and play rook d6, which I think is great because now I get to put pressure on the d file. This king is kind of annoying. It could come to g5 at some moments. And again, I still have no entry square, which a little bit frustrating. I would like to play b4, b5, but this bishop is looking like he's putting in a lot of work, definitely. This endgame, despite the fact that we're up on exchange, is turning out to be a very, very hard endgame to win. Don't forget that when we traded the queens, actually our pawn on e4 is now weak as well. So I'm gonna go back a little bit, figure out where we went wrong. Maybe this position is still very much winnable. Maybe the queen trade is what we should have avoided. Maybe keeping the queens on the board would have been better. So yeah, maybe let's do that. Maybe if we get the queen there, that would be good. But obviously we need to be careful of this. So okay, potentially if we take, oh, I can play rook d8. I completely missed this. Oh, that would have been way better, no? King g5 is an option though. Yes, the king does escape. Ultimately, I would like to get to this pawn, but it is extremely hard to get to that pawn in many lines. But then the f6 pawn will be very powerful. Let me try this one more time. Let's see if I'm right in this position. Maybe Noctie, yes, does suggest rook d8 as a good move. So yes, there we go. Rook d8, better than rook d6. Definitely wanna get to this pawn. So king g5 was played, and I'm gonna lose the f6 pawn, which is unfortunate, but at least I will clear through the f7 pawn. And But even this endgame does feel like it's really hard to win. We are going to lose the e4 pawn. And Noctie does have a pawn and a bishop. Never an easy win, but okay, maybe eventually we will get it. We will get it done now. Oh, rook f7? Okay, I don't think that was the best option. I think rook f2 was better. This king is cut, which is great. And now what we're going to simply do is push our pass pawn. Eventually we get there. It is very hard to win. Maybe giving up the h4 pawn earlier in the game was a very interesting option. But at the end of the day, it kind of comes to be a little annoying that this idea with queen g5 became available, and only because of that we lose our pawn. But nonetheless, we should win this now. We do have the simple b5, and we should be able to win ab. We do have rook takes b7. Alternatively, what we could try to do, we're always in the square of this pawn, no problems. We could try to play rook c7 and try to go for b5, where we sack the rook at the opportune moment, but the enemy king will come into the position. So currently, let's see, this is not really a threat because we'll take there, b5, ab5, ab5, bishop b5, rook b7. It just feels like we should be able to promote the pawn by force. Maybe this king is not going to be able to help out. Let's see. b5, ab, bishop b5, rook b7. Attacks the bishop. Bishop moves somewhere. Let's say d3. But then I just get a simple c6. Bishop b4. Okay, maybe it is kind of annoying there. We'll have to play rook b6. But king f6 is too slow. So eventually I should have c7 and win the game. So ultimately, king g3 is probably going to be the best move because this is not a threat. And if e4, maybe it feels like the king will be better positioned on g3 or something. But oops, not that. Let's play b5. It says it's a good move. Noctie says it's a good move, so it should be winning. I'm assuming the bishop on its own is not going to be able to hold on to this pawn. Of course, there's bishop e4, bishop d5 opportunities, but that doesn't scare me at all. Because in some other lines, we're simply able to play c6, takes, b6, just keep pushing the pawn and just promote it, which is actually a funny line. If bishop d5, we can play c6, bishop takes, we have cb7, checkmate, promoting the queen. And then if bishop d5, c6, takes, b6, again, if you take, I'm promoting, which is exactly what's happening right now. I'm going to play c6, bc6, we have b6, c5, b7. You're going to have to give up the bishop, and we should be able to win with the rook, clean up the pawns one by one. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge, I will tell you this, but we should be winning this one. So b7, let me go ahead and pick up the bishop, and now rook c7 will be able to pick up this pawn. This king is going to be in time to stop this pawn, and any moment that the enemy king tries to become active, and the rest is history. So still got to be a little bit careful, and after e4, I am thinking the easiest win might be just king g3, king f2. Might also just be to pick up the pawn, although this king will become a little active. So I quite like king g3. Let me take my time with it. h4 will go back. That's fine. And I'm starting to sense that Noctie's probably going to want to play e3 at the right time and give up the pawn, distract my king, and try to connect two pawns. But that might not work out. So I need to take this pawn, e3, king e2, king g3. It is actually a little bit complicated, but it shouldn't be too bad. I'm gonna actually start with rook f7. Let me clear out the tension against my my king. So after king e5, king e3, I feel like my king is gonna take a really good spot. So there you see Noctie play king g4. Even this position is not that easy to win, but now I should be able to go here, e3 takes, king g3. Wow, okay, still not easy at all, huh? Let me see. So if I go here, king f4, that's actually quite frustrating. If I go rook c7, e3 takes, king g3, rook takes, king g2. We do have rook g5 check. And it does seem like we're winning. I think just barely, but I think we are in fact winning. Let's go for rook c7. Let's pick up the pawn, and then after e3, our king is close enough to where it shouldn't be a problem. g5, similar idea, but we pick up e3 takes king g3. We will take this pawn. So one by one, the pawns are gonna start falling, and this will mean the victory for us. It was not an easy win after all. It was kind of complicated, and Noctie even to this even in this moment, Noctie continues to try to play resiliently. So e3 will always go king e2. The idea obviously is g4, g3. So if we start with rook c4, g4, and just keep this rook on here, g3, king e2, and at some moment Noctie's going to have to step back with the king. So I think we cracked it. I think we play rook a4. Just let Noctie run out of moves. h3. We will always take this, no problem. And okay, it's always this close to not being able to make it. But okay, we actually don't have to take. We actually don't have to take. We could just play g3. And I actually like this a lot more, yes. It looks scary, but obviously we still have the rook. So we force the enemy king back, king e3. Finally, we're in business. h2, we always can stop it and pick it up. If not, we were going to pick up the e4 pawn just by giving a check to the king, take it with our own king. And yeah, I'm just going to pre-move rook h1 and rook h2, pick up this pawn, and finish off the game in style, hopefully. Alrighty, there we go. Finishing in style. Rook h4 checkmate. Let's go back one last time to the starting position and fully discuss the ideas. So, as mentioned before, we always want to block b5. That is a crucial aspect of queenside counterplay for black. Sometimes, even after a4, a6 has been included, and black will still be able to play b5, there's a lot of positions where if we've jumped knight d5, we force the trade, then we can play cb5, ab5, and a5, as in the first game, make ourselves a pass pawn. Alternatively, if black doesn't play b5, doesn't go aggressively for b5, and just sits and doesn't do anything, we continue to improve our position slowly. We can play h3, king h2, or king h2 or king h1. Both of them are fine. Alternatively, we could play h4, try to be more aggressive with future h5 potential. For example, h4, a4, put a rook on the e-file, play knight d5, force the trade of bishop for knight, open up the e-file, eventually play h5, maybe h6, once we've locked down that queen from being able to stop h5, h6. And the last plan that we discussed in the second game was h3, or sorry, in the first game was h3, tugging the king away, and then f4, f5. And if h4, h5 has happened in the second game, that still gives us the chance to play f4, f5 even more powerfully. So, ultimately, watch out for black's counterplay. Do block b5. Do not be afraid if later on black is able to play b5. You are most likely, when you play a4, later on will be able to play cb, ab, and a5. Make yourself a pass pawn that will be protected. So, good luck in your games, and I'll see you in the next one.